Yes, and by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community.
All right, well, Joe Biden just keeps fucking up. And it's funny because he doesn't pop up in a lot of places, but whenever he pops up, you best believe it's going to be a headline for the wrong reasons. There might be a couple of good things he does here and there. You know what I'm saying? We're waiting for his announcement of supposedly the black woman as the vice president or his running mate. But and here's the thing. Maybe I'm going out on a limb. There's there's 3 ways you can interpret this, right? Two of those actually make sense to me. One of them, if it's actually, obviously, it's the obvious bad way to look at it, and the obviously bad way that it would be if he was saying it this way. But here's the thing. Well, for one, let me just express what I think. What people are saying is the bad way to interpret this. What he meant in terms of what people are saying he meant in that is obviously negative. I think people are believing that when he says Biden, when Biden says that there's no diversity in the black community, but there is in the Latino community, I think people are just saying that Joe Biden is trying to say that black people are a monolith, which is obviously bad and just plainly not true. You know what I'm saying? They're not a monolith. They're not all one thing. Black people are incredibly diverse and their beliefs and all of that, right? So obviously Joe Biden is wrong. And I mean, let's stick with that wrong. Let's say that is what he's trying to say. I mean, what the fuck, Joe Biden? I mean, I feel like he's kind of blowing. He's almost like the Warriors of this presidential election, where like Trump is fucking up the worst he could ever fuck up with this, the dealing of the coronavirus, just his presidency in general. He's fucking up so bad. So, like, Biden kind of just has to say the normal shit. Like, he just has to say the right thing, and he could possibly win the 2020 elections. So, the reason I compare it to the Warriors is, like, he's kind of blown. And, like, the Warriors had a very easy path to the finals. Or not easy path to the finals, an easy path to win the finals and get that chip in 2017 against the Cavs, right? They're 3-1. They're up 3-1 against the Cavs. All you have to do is just, win the next game to play it safe, and you got it. That's all that Joe Biden has to do. But he's continuously blown that 3-1 lead over and over again. Let's not forget that a couple months ago, this guy said, if you don't vote for me, if you ain't black, to a black person and speaking to black people. If I know one thing, you can't tell people that are a certain thing that they're not that certain thing, because they're just going to be mad at you. To relate it to me, you can't tell a Dominican that they're not Dominican if they don't do a certain thing. Or even furthermore, you can't call Dominicans Puerto Ricans because they're going to get mad because you're telling them something they are not. We Dominicans take a lot of pride in being Dominicans, so if you call us Puerto Rican, we're going to get angry. Same thing with Puerto Ricans if you call them Dominican. You can't tell people who are a certain thing that they are another thing. That's just like common sense, I think. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's something that's crazy. I don't think that should be something that I should even say, but I guess I have to say it with Joe Biden. And even besides him, continuously alienating the black vote, even though the guy has fucking Barack Obama in his side. Like, how do you have Barack Obama on your side and black people are still kind of torn on you? That's how you know you're really blowing that fucking 3-1 lead. You know what I'm saying? But even besides that, the fact that he passed the 97 crime bill, which affected a lot of black people, a lot of people, bring that up in regards to his presidency. You know what I'm saying? And even besides, if you take race out of it, the guy's clearly just wild. The guy clearly doesn't know what the fuck he's saying. The guy clearly has mental issues. The guy clearly probably has dementia. So even if you remove race out of it, even if you're not dividing your possible black voters, you're still like not fit to be president, really. I mean, it's not like Trump is any better. I mean, we saw that Axios interview, I haven't seen it, but I know he said some wild shit in there. But regardless, it's like, bro, how are you fucking up this bad? But that's how he could be fucking up like really badly, right? In terms of if you interpret this statement as that, that's just another fuck up in the long list of fuck ups Joe Biden has been doing. I mean, just looking at his face, I mean, look at this fucking loser. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He looks like he's not real. He looks like he's been dead a long time ago. But regardless, if you take his statements in that negative light, I totally understand, and it makes sense. That's a right thing to jump to that conclusion because of all the ways he's fucked up. But here's the thing. I think there's two other ways to interpret what he's saying. One that I thought that that's what he was going for, and then another one that also made sense that I learned while, seeing what people were saying about this. I'll say the one that other people are saying that it's actually not as negative as the first one. He might have been talking about the fact that the Latino community is much more diverse in terms of voting than the black community, which is all but a fact. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is kind of like, if that's what he meant, he still fucked it up. But if he would have worded that in the right way, it would have been kind of him saying again, like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, because basically all black people vote for Democrats at this point. That's like a very common knowledge. The Democratic Party tries to get the black vote, right? I think that is one way that he could have meant it, that it wasn't that bad. Still possibly bad because you can't really, well, you can if you're looking at the data, right? There's kind of what is the word? Empirical data that proves that is the case. Most black people vote Democrat, and there's no judgment either way. That's just kind of what it is. But if that's what Joe Biden meant, obviously you need to say that, Joe Biden. You can't just say that unlike the African American community, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes. You have to say, the black community isn't as diverse in terms of the way they vote. That's all you have to say. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that hard. But also, the way that I took it when I first heard it, besides the obvious bad way you can interpret it, the way I interpreted it was just kind of like in a basic sense of how diverse in general the Latino community is, because we're mixed with so many different things, and we all look like a Hispanic person, a Latino person can range from super white skin with blue eyes, you know what I'm saying? And super white skin with blue eyes, blonde hair, or red hair, all the way to the darkest skinned person there is. That's how wide the range of the Latino community can be, right? In that sense, I can understand why he's saying with like the Latino community can be extremely diverse, and the black community not as diverse in that sense, right? Because it's not like you're gonna find, there are like South African people who are like white skinned, but I don't necessarily think they're considered black. When you think about the African American community, there's no one that's really like white that's like African, except for like Lil Mosey, which I guess is black, or Logic. All right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are really white people in the African community, but I don't know. The first thing that popped up in my head was just that of like how diverse the Latino community can be because of all the ways that we've been mixed, right? Like, the mix between Spaniards, Native Americans, and Africans. You know what I'm saying? Like, that mix of African slaves, Native Americans, and Spaniards was much more prevalent in the Latino community, and therefore there's so much variance in that community. So much so that there's also like issues. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you've heard the term Afro-Latino, and how a lot of Hispanic Latinos can be racist, and how black people get mad that Latinos can be racist because some of them are like blacker than black people. So how can you be racist against black people if you're like just like us? It can be really complicated, and that's another thing that kind of proves that, yeah, like Latinos, the community of Latinos can be extremely diverse in that way. But obviously, Joe Biden, you need to fucking be... I mean, maybe I'm just, kind of asking too much of Joe Biden, somebody who is clearly demented at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm probably asking for way too much. But I'm just saying, like, come on, Joe Biden. You need to realize what the fuck you're saying and say it right. If you're going to say it at all. Because, people are on your ass. People are kind of even hoping that you become the presidential candidate. You know what I'm saying? So, you fucking up this bad is blowing a 3-1 lead the same way the Warriors did.